Yes, yes, yes. Oh, you know what that sound means? It's time for In the Paddock F1. Greeny and the cheese. We start the Asian swing of the F1 calendar. We're 85 miles north of the equator. Oh, that means it's hot. It's sticky. It's humid. That's right. We're in the city-state of Singapore. Singapore is a global financial center. We got those botanical gardens. Even the airport has a waterfall. How about them apples? But this ain't no travel show. This is an F1 show. We're racing at the Marina Bay Circuit. Only 19 corners. We took 4 out because we got rid of that little thing around underneath the highway. We're down to 3 miles now. You give it the full beans for 51% of your lap. And oh, baby, what a race we saw. How about them red cars? How about them red cars? Ferrari was on pole. Red Bull was struggling all weekend. The Red Bull actually looked like straight trash. Sainz controlled the pace from the start, takes his second win in F1, ends the streak for the Red Bulls. Yeah, that's done by the prancing pony, beating that bull. Norris takes second. Hamilton comes in third. We're caffeinated. We're medicated. Greeny, good evening, sir.
Yeah, I think we ended the streak for Ferrari as well, I think. The losing streak for Ferrari. Yeah. There were a couple of streaks broken. How are you feeling, sir? You must be feeling fine.
I'm a happy camper.
Happy
about time.
Camper.
Got it all right for a change.
Still unable to put 2 red cars. I want to see 2 red cars on the podium.
That's fair.
Then the world may be right again. In the Paddock F1 Greeny and the cheese. That's what you are listening to or watching on YouTube right now. And yeah, man, we're bringing all the highlights and post-race for the Singapore Formula One Grand Prix, and probably the best race of the season for many reasons, probably not just because Max Verstappen and or Sergio Perez did not win. We didn't even have a Red Bull on the podium. Who would have thought that? Carlos Sainz 33-1 going into the weekend, wins the race. Man, they really gave Ferrari no chance this weekend. What did Ferrari do right? What did Red Bull do wrong?
Well, let's start with Red Bull. They just got the setup straight up wrong. I mean, they even said it themselves. They got the setup dead wrong and killed them. They also said going in that I think they also pinpointed this race as a race that they were probably struggling at. So they already pinpointed it, and just got the setup dead wrong. It happens. Can't win them all.
Can't win them all.
Can't win them all.
They came pretty close.
They were trying.
They came pretty close.
They're sure trying, but you can't win them all. Ferrari got it right. Ferrari is usually pretty darn good, actually, in Singapore anyway. I mean, they have a pretty good record at Singapore, so the car's always pretty good at Singapore. They got the strategy right. The car was hooked up. They didn't cook their tires like usual, which tends to be their issue. They have more tire deg than everybody else, but they didn't have that this weekend. But maybe that was also because Carlos drove an absolutely brilliant race, controlling the pace throughout, even at the end there, just keeping Lando Norris close enough to give him the DRS to slow down so that the Mercs couldn't, make the move on Norris then to come after him when they were charging hard there at the end. I mean, it was a really just brilliant drive by Carlos. Leclerc got the rough break on the safety car when everybody came in, and they had to hold him just because of traffic coming by. I mean, that's the rules. That's the break sometimes.
That's the breaks.
Tough break. I mean, it's a tough break, but, still got the 4th place finish with the just absolute horrid mistake there by Russell at the end, giving Leclerc 4th. But then they still would have had a top 5 finish for Leclerc, but Ferrari got it right. How about that? How about that? They got it right for a change. They got it right. How about that?
Ferrari did get it right for a change, and Red Bull got it wrong for a change, and that's where we find ourselves this weekend. That's probably the only way a Ferrari's going to get on podium. But everyone makes a mistake, or at least, for a win this season. I'm not trying to say that to be nasty to Ferrari Nation. But this was not a Red Bull weekend. It just wasn't a Red Bull weekend, and it happens. And obviously, they're breaking records. I mean, it doesn't happen 11 times in a row. And how many every race this season they've won? So how many races have they won in a row as Red Bull? I don't even know, 15. What are we on? Something ridiculous in a row. I mean, you go back to last season, there's even more. I mean, what an insane streak. This is a crazy streak that it has to come to an end. It didn't have to, but it did. And
as all streaks do, they come to an end at some point.
All do.
I mean, that's just how it goes. No matter what sport or in motorsport or anything, that's just what it is. I mean, it happens. You're going to get it wrong. Yeah, they got it wrong. They've been absolutely dominant. But the thing is though, they also knew they were going to struggle here. Even going into the weekend, they said this out of one weekend out of the season, this weekend we're going to struggle. They already had that kind of pinpointed to be, off the bat. So I guess they knew something with how their car works. It just wasn't going to handle. They were having issues. Their issue was in their braking and the car bottoming out on the the rough surface there in Singapore. So you're going to be slower when you can't be confident and hit the get on the brakes late like the other guys were able to do, because your car's going to bottom out and you're not going to have the front end grip that you need to make the corner. So they knew that going in. They got their setup wrong. That doesn't help either. But I mean, it happens. Little chink there in the Red Bull armor.
A little bit.
Not like it really mattered, because if they finished, what was it? If they finished both cars in the top 10 or something, and Merck didn't finish above sixth or something, they would have clinched the constructors anyway. So I mean, we're gonna push that till next week in Japan. Come on, let's relax. We're at that point.
We are at that time. We are at that time of year where we're going to be speaking about championships, and obviously most people thought Max would probably be on podium this weekend, and Sergio wouldn't be. That was a lot of people thought. Obviously Vegas had it, and the betting houses had it. Still had it. Verstappen 1, Perez 2 on the line, but that didn't happen. So what you're looking at now is just pushing back and kicking the can down the road. Is there any chance now, anybody, now we know Max Verstappen, there's almost no chance he doesn't finish first. Any chance someone besides Sergio Perez can finish second this season?
I don't know, what's the gap right now?
It's close. Not that close. But I'll give you the up-to-date standings, as it will slowly soon be scrolling across the bottom of your screen here, if you're watching on YouTube. And of course, if you are not watching on YouTube, you should get on YouTube. Just search Greeny and the Cheese, and we'll come up. So F1 standings as of right now.
Perez has what lead over Lewis?
43 points. 53 for Alonso.
That's a hefty gap.
That's going to be too much.
That's too much. Yeah. I don't know. That's a hefty gap.
And then Sainz is way back there. Carlos Sainz is about 80 points off a second. Can Lewis Hamilton take second this season? By the way, the gap to Verstappen to Perez, can you guess the gap points from?
Oh, that's got to be ridiculous. That's got to be over 100. Maybe even 2.
Not 2. It's about 150, 148, 147. Doing quick math.
I don't know. I don't even know if Lewis can make that gap up. That's a big gap.
43 points is a big gap.
That's a big gap. Especially when you're not getting W's. So you could close that gap a lot quicker when you're getting W's.
Yeah.
Or second place finishes. That's still a pretty good chunk of points, but yeah, I would say no, to be honest. I would say no at this point. I say it's definitely going to probably be a Red Bull one too.
You're probably right.
Unless Red Bull completely, implodes for the rest of the season, which, I don't envision that happening. Let's, be dead honest.
No, this is a blip in the radar.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would be damned if Red Bull comes out in Japan and doesn't put at least one car on the podium. They're going to finish 1-2 in Japan just because they're pissed now. Because you woke the beast.
Oh, they're definitely pissed.
They're definitely pissed. They made a lot of mistakes.
Max was pissed all weekend. Max was pissed all weekend.
Yeah, a lot of teams made a lot of mistakes this weekend. We're going to get into that. Some interesting mistakes. The slap is kind of tough to go around because there's a bunch of teams and a bunch of people that might need to slap themselves after this week. A lot of interesting stuff between. Don't get me started on Lance Stroll again. Pick up where we started with Lance Stroll. What a disaster. Didn't even start. Couldn't even start the race this week. Fernando Alonso, what happened with Aston Martin with the jack? Like, I don't even know what was going on with that. We got a whole bunch of stuff. Listen, we have a whole bunch more stuff to talk about. We have winners. We have losers. It's probably going to be losers and then winners because we have Quizmaster Cockpit coming up. And, of course, somebody's going to slap themselves. We got Greeny Bucks. We have so much more. Stick around. Any final thoughts before we pull this off to break?
It was great to see the red cars on top of the podium for a change. Go Carlos. Vamos! Carlos!
Vamos in the paddock. One. Greeny the cheese. Look at that. Like a flash. Yeah. Oh, man. Greeny the cheese in the paddock F1. We are back. Couldn't keep us away. What a weekend, man. What a weekend.
Probably the best race of the year.
Yes, I said Haas before all show. Yes, the Haas's looked really good. Yes, we got a point for the first time since the sprint race. I'll take it. It's a point. I'll take it. But yeah,
I'm sure they'll be in your winners. I'm sure they're going to be in your winners this week.
That was wild. I don't know. I have a whole bunch of stuff written. I'll see what you say. We'll see when we get to winners. We'll see if we ever get to winners because we of course have Quizmaster's Cockpit, which my helmet is on tight, sir. And you got some questions. You have guaranteed already that I have zero chance of getting all three. Man. Yes, he's saying yes.
Zero chance. Chance on 1, chance on 2, 3-0 chance. So we'll see. But knowing you probably get all 3 wrong, so.
Probably.
I did write down losers again first coming up here.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Without further ado.
Oh, no.
Question 1, sir.
Zero.
Question 1, sir.
Go ahead.
Ferrari was once again on the top step in Singapore, including today. How many times has a Ferrari driver taken the top step at the Singapore Grand Prix?
5?
Close, but no, 4.
Are you sure?
Yes. This year, 23. Seb in 19 and 15, and Fernando in 2010.
Yeah, Fernando did it with Renault, right?
He did it with Renault, not in the Ferrari. Correct. So we're off to a flying start.
You have someone like 60 in the 60s or 70s that might have snuck in. They don't have a Ferrari.
Well, that was not. They were not a part of the Formula One calendar. Ferrari actually has 5 wins, but the other win was in like 60 something? But the Singapore Grand Prix was not part of the F1 calendar or official World Championship. They had a race, but it did not count towards the Formula One.
Yes, until 08. All right. So I got that one wrong.
Yep. So we're off to a flying start as always.
So purple
Question 2. Max nor a Red Bull was on the top step of the race today. When was the last time that happened? And what driver stood on the top step that day?
Wait, the last time a Red Bull driver won Singapore?
Did not win a race.
Ooh.
When was the last time a Red Bull was not on the top step? And who was that driver?
No, we were just talking about this too. We were just talking about this. Was it Lando last year?
No. Lando still does not have a win in Formula 1.
Yeah, no.
So that's wrong.
I got a complete blank. Who the heck was the last?
It was the Brazilian Grand Prix. And that driver was his first win of his career. That was George Russell.
That's right. Damn Brazilian Grand Prix.
So we're off to an excellent start. We're 0 for 2.
I picked the guy who doesn't have a win. Took the guy who doesn't have a win. For the win. It's getting hot in this hat, let me tell you.
Question 3.
Yeah?
It was Esteban Ocon's birthday. What a bad birthday present he got, let me tell you. But in regards to that, there's been only 2 drivers to win a Grand Prix on their birthday. Can you name the 2?
Michael Schumacher?
No.
Niki Lauda?
No. The 2 drivers... The 2 drivers are James Hunt and Jean Alesi.
No way I was getting that.
Well, I knew that going in.
Definitely wasn't Esteban Ocon. I'll tell you that.
Definitely wasn't Esteban Ocon. It was a rough break for Esteban Ocon.
Drivers ever have
But leading so because you got 0 for 3. A clean sweep in the wrong direction. You completely imploded the engine and smacked the wall like Lance Stroll. Is that a bit too early? Probably not.
No.
Well, that'll take us right into losers, and
I have no daddy that could buy me another one.
That'll lead us into losers, and my first loser is going to be Esteban Ocon. Had a top 10 in hand.
On his birthday.
10 in hand. On his birthday. And he blows up. He was having a really good drive, too. He was cutting to the field there a bit. Really showing something. Really making some really nice moves, too. Made a couple really nice moves in the race. So unfortunately, but, gets nothing. Had a top 10, big can of nope. Definitely a loser there for Ocon. And I'm going to give it to George Russell. Absolutely lost concentration there at the end. Got tunneled following Lando. Frustration probably took over a bit there. Knowing that he had a half a car length to make that move on Lando and he just couldn't do it. Smacks the wall. Throws away. Podium finish. And those would be my losers. What you got?
It was a tough field for losers. A lot of drivers drove well. I'm not just going to give it to, Ocon as well. I think, Pierre Gasly had such a great race. You don't want to give it to Alpine and take a look at that. Like everyone, it was so strange because everyone, it was like one driver did well on a team and the other driver did poorly on a team. So you can't blame any teams this weekend. But I could definitely look at, as I said before, I got to give something to Lance Stroll. I mean, this is ridiculous. He didn't even race, and he's going to get a loser. That was ridiculous. I get on every single week, and this is the reason why. The guy's actually still in 10th place. I don't know how he has like 40, 50 points this year, but he couldn't even start the race. That was a terrible crash. That was 100%.
That was a hard hit. It was
100% unforced error. That was all on him, and that was bad.
A lot of the drivers were complaining. A lot of the drivers were sliding a bit in that corner.
Nobody hit the wall like that, though.
Nobody hit the wall like that. You know what? He stayed in it. He knew he had to stay in it to try and get a lap time. I give him credit for that.
Yeah.
I give him credit for that, for staying in it. And you know what? The car breaks like that. But that was a hard lick. I didn't think he was going to come back and race the next day either. And you can't put another driver in the car either.
No, you can't do that
by rule. So another driver has to take part in the weekend in that car to be able to drive in the race. So that's why they couldn't have anybody in there. That was a hard lick.
Yeah, and listen, AlphaTauri had it tough, but Yuki Tsunoda's got to cross the finish line, man. He's got to get across the finish line. I know he had a rough weekend.
How about get further than 2 laps?
But he's got to cross. At least he started, right? Someone who didn't even start, someone who got a couple laps in. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on at AlphaTauri. I don't know what's going. Maybe they got to go.
Well, he got in some kind of
But
he got a collision. I forget with who.
Mm-hmm.
And it damaged the side pod and the coolant.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much the end of that.
But he's got to get, man. At least he started the race, but still.
Yeah.
That's bad. That's bad stuff. So those are my losers. There were a lot of surprising winners this week.
So let's take us to winners. I'm going to give it to Oscar Piastri, 7th place. Great drive from Oscar. What did he start? Like 17th? What did he start? 17th or 18th?
17th. Started 17th.
Because he got caught by the Lance Stroll red flag on his final lap. Just because of how quick the track was ramping up in qualifying, but he got hung out, started 17th and finished 7th. Solid drive for Oscar. Really showing he's got something there at Oscar. And he didn't even have the upgrades that Norris had this weekend. So really good drive from Oscar this weekend. And hey, you got to get up to Lawson. First points in Formula One. 9th place finish. AlphaTauri did bring a buttload of upgrades. He definitely showed that he enjoyed them. But a great drive from Lawson. Those will be my winners.
Yeah, I'm going to go with this. This is just a layup right here with Pierre Gasly. What a great day.
Good drive.
After not having a great weekend until the race, he really did not look great. And then came through yesterday, took advantage of the safety car, took advantage. I think Alpine was on the ball yesterday.
Yeah.
Sucks that Ocon exploded, but they were on the ball. They had a much better
things. Those things are going to happen there in Singapore. It's just so hot. Everything just gets ridiculously hot in the cars. It's hot tamale down there. It's pretty much the hardest Grand Prix that the teams face.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, the drivers sit in ice baths before they get in the car. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
Singapore is the land of heat, man. It's hot down there. Got the giant lizards walking all over the tracks. See those things?
Yeah.
See those monsters? All right, anyway, I got my other winner this week is Lewis Hamilton.
Ooh! Not going to put Haas in winners. Wow! It's like your one shot in like the year to put them in the winners.
Got a point. Lawson finished in front of Cade. All right, Liam Lawson finished in front of Kevin Magnussen. I was gonna give it to him, but just thinking Liam Lawson finished in front of him.
The AlphaTauri's a better car than the Haas. Let's be real.
The Haas is the worst car out there. Let's be real.
The Haas doesn't.
The Haas have no winners.
What upgrades has Haas brought? At least AlphaTauri brought some upgrades.
Yeah, Haas can't afford upgrades. They got to sell some kind of North Korean fertilizer on that thing to make some money. Get some new sponsors. They lost Russia. What other awful dictators can they countries can they put on their car? They can't afford it. They can't afford anything. They broke. They the broke Americans. They put everything on the credit card, and the bill came due, and they got nothing. I didn't put them in losers either. I kept it neutral this week. So I'm giving it to Lewis Hamilton. The guy finished on podium. The guy's ageless. And What did I tell you? After the break, he picks it up, man. Every single season after the break, and this season's no different, age or not. And I think Mercedes is as well. I mean, you can see it. I know Russell day did not end like he wanted it to, but Russell had a great weekend. Really, he did.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Well,
no, he didn't.
No, he didn't. Right? Until he did it. Right?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
George Russell had a great weekend until he did it. But Lewis Hamilton
that was, to be honest, that was a rookie mistake.
Well, yeah.
That's a rookie mistake. That's a rookie mistake.
Did George Russell
doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care what happened leading up there. When you make that bonehead mistake on the final lap and lose yourself a podium, that weekend is destroyed. That weekend is destroyed. Destroyed. Take the weekend to the trash.
It is destroyed. It is destroyed. And that's why I'm giving it to Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes does look better. They do look better. And Lewis Hamilton drove that car great. And which leads us to, of course, because now our segment's long.
I need to slap my goddamn for that.
This was a tough one this week, but we haven't said Fernando Alonso, especially he's barely even been a loser this season, let alone a slap yourself. But I don't know what was going on at Aston Martin. I know they got some special jack for the new time, and the thing just didn't work. I don't know what happened, but it didn't work. It didn't work. It was like the worst thing you could possibly happen. Can you imagine going to work?
That was the bad news. That was a bad news Bears pit stop right there. The guy's waving. They're waving at the guy, telling him to jack the car back up because the tire isn't on, and he just stood there at the front. The jack man at the front and the back, not just the front. It was both sides of the car.
If you watch the video again, man, it's like they're so complacent. They just don't even. They're like, all right, you just screwed this guy's entire race. You screwed the entire race. Your other car didn't even start. Your other car didn't even start to race, and then you screw that up. You have one car. You have one car on track. What are you doing? How do you do that? And they didn't even care. These guys were so complacent that they weren't like, oh my gosh, we just blew it. It was like, oh, standing there with their new jacks. It's like, I just got this brand new thing, and you blow it. That was bad. That was really bad. Slap yourself. Whoever was holding that jack, I don't know who you were, but you should slap your damn self. And that's all I got. That's all I got, man. We got...
Was that 45 seconds?
45 seconds. That's got to go. And definitely not the longest pit stop of all time. There's been longer ones. There's been more ridiculous ones. But that probably goes up there in the paddock of one green and cheese. Back in there.
Yes, we're back in the paddock F1. Green the cheese. You know what that sound means? It's time to take that fantasy ride to that fantasy island of Greentopia, where the beer flows like wine, the wine flows like beer. The cannabis grows as far as the eyes can see. Look at it. Look at it out there. Green and luscious. Take a little whiff. That air smells fantastic. We got those tickets in hand. Let's take a walk to the top of the hill to that casino at the top. Are we cashing in? Or are we checking out? Oh, we're checking out this weekend, I'll tell you that. Get on the first boat the heck out of Greentopia with that mix we made.
How do you predict that? How do you predict that?
I don't know. I probably should have. Max has actually never won at Singapore.
No, he has not.
So how about that? So that should have probably Red Bull has won at
Singapore.
Didn't Sergio win last year? Sergio Perez. Yes, he did, but he was also, at the front the whole race pretty much. So it was wet last year too.
Regardless, it's tough. Listen, street races are always tough.
Yeah, the great equalizer.
It is the great equalizer, and we saw it this weekend. And listen, it's great for Ferrari won. How do you not get pumped for that, man?
I was on the edge of my seat that whole damn race.
So anyway, we both had Max to win. Because how do you not have Max to win? Was that?
Vamos to Carlos.
Vamos to Carlos. Yeah,
I actually should have went with my original picks, but
we went with the same picks.
We did.
I was shocked to see that we went with the same picks. This week, which were both losers. I had Max as the biggest gainer. It was Oscar Piastri after the aforementioned Oscar Piastri.
I was actually thinking Oscar to get biggest gainer, and nope, went with Max.
I had Oscar on my board, but just like
chickened out. I chickened out this week.
No good.
I chickened out.
Of course you did, because that's how your frugal ass rolls. So
I was not very confident in the picks. Therefore, we pulled back the reins.
So 5,600 for both of us. We were both tied last week, both rolling up with the same picks. But of course, I bet too much, you bet too little, and you're at 5,450 greeny bucks. Congratulations, you're still over. And I'm down at 5,300 greeny bucks, getting closer to that zero line, which we don't want to be at. We want to be earners and not losers. So we're both head above water. 150 greeny bucks. That's not very much. Do we have an open season right now where Red Bull's not going to win every race? We'll see. Probably not. Maybe you'll go with Carlos Sainz next week, and then they won't win.
Carlos has been driving pretty good recently.
Carlos has been driving really, really well recently. He's, like we said last week, he's been outshining Charles Leclerc every race, and he really has been the better driver this year. Where 2 years ago we're talking about Charles Leclerc potentially winning a drivers' championship, and now it's Carlos Sainz. So very interesting.
Hasn't made that step.
And away we go, because we have in the news.
I got a couple things here for you. George Russell made a massive mistake on the final lap of that Grand Prix. Will that mistake affect him moving forward, or will he forget about it and just move on?
I think he'll forget about it and move on. Kind of reminded me. I mean, was it in Abu Dhabi a couple years ago? It was like his first race with Mercedes, where that was a wild one.
That was the Bahrain. That was the second Bahrain when they ran the alternate track at Bahrain.
Yeah, when they ran the alternate.
Mercedes,
right.
Mercedes blew that. Well, they blew that for him. They blew that
for him. He blew this one himself. Listen, these are learning experiences. Bottom line, these are learning experiences, and that's what they are. You're not competing for a drivers' championship, but next year or 2 years, you might be George Russell competing for a drivers' championship, and that's when that mistake will be extremely costly. When you're neck and neck for a drivers' championship. That's when it's going to be a problem. You got away with it, right? You're not even, to be honest, no offense, George Russell, but you're not even a top 5 driver this year. So not this year, not this season, but I think if you look back 2 years from now, or 2 years ahead, and he's still doing the same thing in those situations and trying to compete for a drivers' championship, you're going to have a hard time winning a championship if that's your goal. Which I'm assuming George Russell and the Mercedes is their goal for he was the driver's championship in the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. Well, I pretty much have heard him say he wants to be a world champion. So,
well, who doesn't?
If you don't want to be a world champion, what the hell are you doing in the sport anyway?
What are you doing in the sport? Unless you're driving for Haas.
I don't know any racing driver I've ever met that said I want to finish second, not first. So
I'm just here for the money.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not bad. Let's
see. Lawson finished 9th, grabbing his first points in Formula One. His goals for a seat next year. Will he have one?
This is wild, man. This is one of those situations in sports that makes sports so unique, when you have a situation where you fired someone, okay? And then someone comes in to take that person's job. And the person that comes in to take that person's job fails for whatever reason. I'm not saying that Danny Ricciardo failed for any skill, but when you break your wrist, you failed in that position. And then you have to move on, right? So as we talked about in this show before, when you move on in those situations like that, and you bring someone else in, it's just a patch, right? It's a temp job, right? It's like if you called out for a month, you're gonna have to get a temp in there, right? So the temp comes in and they do the job, and everyone knows that the temp just at the end of the month or whatever goes home, and then goes to the next job. The temp doesn't stay, but the temp is staying, right? And the temp has an opportunity to stay. And this is a very unique situation. Now, let's see what Danny Ricciardo... If Danny Ricciardo is healthy and wants that job, he's going to get that job next year, right? I don't know if they're going to be in that situation or want him in that position. Or if the Nick DeVries thing was like something had to happen. Something we don't know happened with Nick DeVries. So, P.S., I have no freaking idea. It would be so cool if Liam Lawson gets the job, especially coming in as a temp and getting the job that way. That's a really cool thing, man. That's really, sports is very unique like that.
I mean, right now he's pretty much earning. He should deserve a seat next year. The way he's been driving since he's actually got in the car, except the first
Nick
week.
DeVries score this year?
Nick DeVries had a big can of nope.
So there you go. Already, he's already outscored Nick DeVries. Yeah. This is ridiculous, right? It's a little ridiculous.
Well, yeah. Hey, you know what?
And it just shows that AlphaTauri's car was not as bad as they were driving it. And maybe Yuki really stinks, too.
Well, I think we've had that discussion on this program before.
There's
probably really doesn't. I don't really think he hasn't really performed up to what he should be, especially since he wants a Red Bull seat. I mean, he's got no chance at that.
No chance.
Liam Lawson looks like he's on a track to maybe get a Red Bull seat in the future.
Maybe Red Bull boat racing. You get a Red Bull seat, just not in an F1 car.
Question. Another little question for you here. With the safety car in pretty much almost every team stacking for the pits, is it time for Formula One to have 2 pit boxes per team?
There's very interesting question, but there's like a certain skill set that I feel, I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel that a lot of people really should understand that it's a skill. The pit guys are a skill. That's all they do. And to double stack, to do it well, if you can double stack well and another team can't, that's an advantage for you. It shouldn't be a disadvantage that, you root for Ferrari and they can't double stack versus Red Bull who can double stack. It's a skill, I feel. And if you're able to double stack correctly, it really creates a situation where you can take an advantage outside of your driver. And it's very difficult to show, right? Because all the time there's situations outside of your driver sitting in that vehicle that make the difference in the race. But you don't get to see that in the 2 hours you watch the race every couple of weeks. You don't get to see that. And here you get to see that in the double stack and that skill coming to life. What I think is a disservice is that, we don't spend enough time talking about the pit crew. They only talk about them when they screw something up.
Oh, yeah.
Or they're really just unbelievably phenomenal. But, we should, especially with like Red Bull, what they're doing with 2.5-second pit stops. I mean, they're revolutionizing the pit stop. We should know a little bit more about maybe their personalities, who they are, potentially. There's a lot there, and there's people there that are part of Formula One that are really an important part of it. I think we keep that. Forget about the double stack, man. Double stack is a skill, and these guys should learn it, and it gives you an advantage. Just like a good third base coach in baseball, just like a good special teams coach in football, they give you the advantage for your organization. That's all I got to say about that.
Well, all right then, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the final. Max says Red Bull was unlucky in Singapore. Were they just unlucky? Has the field caught up to him?
No, they were genuinely unlucky. It was a blip on the radar. Absolutely blip on the radar. You don't win. I think it's 14. This was the 15th race of the season. You don't win 14 of 15, right? It's 93%. That's insane.
Yeah,
insane. It's an insane number. So if I told you that 14 of the last 15 days it rained, and I'm not going to tell you the weather for tomorrow, are you going to bring an umbrella?
Probably.
So therefore, I'm saying probably. Now, if we get through Japan, which should be more conducive to Red Bull, right? The track should be more conducive to Red Bull. But if we even get through qualifying and we don't have two Red Bulls on no worse than second row, really it should be first row. It should be a first row lockout for Red Bull. Go in there, get the lockout, and end all questions. If you don't, there's going to be questions. And if Max doesn't sit on pole going into Japan, there's going to be a lot of questions. I think. But we will see.
Yeah.
But
I'd say front row.
It's also, it's complacency as well. It's over. It's over.
Yeah.
150 points between him and Sergio. It's over for Max. Max won the title. Red Bull's going to win the Constructors' Championship. There's just no chance. We talked about it before. Like the races for not even second, for third.
Yeah.
You're racing for third place. First and second are just about locked up.
Yeah.
Constructors locked up. So I think it's complacency.
Yeah, you could see it. It's only human nature. Especially when you've been whooping everybody so bad.
Which is always the bad part. As I said, this season, it's just the worst part of being done before break.
Sometimes that's just what you need.
When you go home as a team, and I'm not just talking about Max Verstappen, I'm talking about the entire team, soup to nuts. They all go home. They all go home for a couple weeks. You won already, and now you got to go back on the road, away from your family, away from your comfortable living situation, and go back on the road. I know it's the F1. I know it's very exciting for us sitting at home. But for people whose job is every day, it's not. Think about your job, and maybe if you have a cool job, hopefully you do. And if you do, it still gets tiresome. It still gets difficult at times. And it's the same for these people. It's tough. Once we got
next week.
We got 1 week to
2
go.
days off. 1 week. 1
We
week.
have 1 week off. We're going to try to do an early show as early as possible next week. I think race time is 9.
I don't even know what
You're
time
on the East Coast?
I'm not sure.
You're in New York time? I think it is. So we're going to try to get an early show in next week. So we'll see about that. And that's all I got, man. Say what you got to say.
As always, we'll catch you in a week. And as always, stay medicated, my friends.
Peace.